In 1936, archaeologists found a clay jar in Iraq that generated electricity 2,000 years ago. In 1891, engineers discovered Egyptian temple carvings showing what looks exactly like a light bulb. In Peru, stone walls built by the Incas repel metal objects like magnets. In Pakistan, ancient bricks are fused at temperatures that shouldn't have been possible 4,500 years ago. And Nikola Tesla believed the pyramids of Egypt were actually wireless power plants. Ancient civilizations created energy technology that modern science still can't explain. This is the story of 5 ancient energy devices that challenge everything we think we know about technological progress. In 1936, German archaeologist Wilhelm Koenig was cataloging artifacts at the National Museum of Iraq in Baghdad. Among thousands of pottery fragments and ancient tools, he found something that didn't make sense. It was a clay jar, about 5 inches tall, from around 200 BC. Inside the jar was a copper cylinder. Inside the copper cylinder was an iron rod. The iron rod was isolated from the copper by an ancient asphalt seal. Koenig had seen this configuration before, in modern batteries. He filled a replica with vinegar, a common acidic substance available to ancient Parthians. It generated 1.1 volts of electricity. The Baghdad Battery worked. The question was, why did ancient Persians need electricity 2,000 years before Alessandro Volta invented the modern battery in 1800? The most compelling theory is electroplating. Archaeologists have found ancient Persian objects covered in impossibly thin layers of gold. These layers are so thin and so uniform that they couldn't have been applied by hand. They look exactly like modern electroplated objects. Electroplating requires 3 things: a conductive solution, an electrical current, and metal ions. The Baghdad Battery could provide the electrical current. Ancient Persians had gold. They had acidic liquids. They had everything they needed. Modern jewelers have replicated ancient Persian gold-plated objects using only Baghdad Battery technology. It works. The results are identical to archaeological finds. But here's the problem. There's no evidence ancient Persians knew what electricity was. They left no written records of electrical theory. They didn't describe batteries or electroplating processes. They just built devices that generate electricity and created objects that require electricity to make. Skeptics argue the Baghdad Battery was just a scroll container, that the electrical generation is coincidental. But no ancient scrolls were ever found inside these jars, and dozens of identical jars have been found across Parthian territories, all with the same configuration: copper cylinder, iron rod, asphalt seal. If one was a coincidence, what are the odds of dozens being accidents? In 2003, during the Iraq War, the National Museum of Iraq was looted. The original Baghdad Battery was lost, possibly forever. Most of the replicas were destroyed. The few remaining examples are scattered across museums worldwide. We can build Baghdad batteries today. We understand how they work. What we don't understand is how a civilization with no concept of electricity, no understanding of electrochemistry, and no written electrical theory created functional batteries 2,000 years before modern science discovered electrical principles. In the Dendera Temple complex in Egypt, built during the Ptolemaic period, around 50 BC, there's a chamber covered in unusual hieroglyphic carvings. At first glance, they look like typical Egyptian religious imagery: gods, priests, rituals. But in 1891, when the carvings were first photographed and studied in detail, engineers noticed something impossible. The carvings looked exactly like technical diagrams of electrical light bulbs. The images show large bulb-shaped objects. Inside each bulb is a snake, a common Egyptian symbol for energy. The bulbs are connected to braided cables that look identical to modern electrical wiring. These cables connect to boxes that look remarkably like electrical power supplies or battery banks. Priests are shown operating the devices. If you showed these carvings to a modern electrical engineer without telling them they're 2,000 years old, they'd describe them as light bulbs connected to power sources.
The orthodox explanation is that these are lotus flowers, symbolic of creation and rebirth in Egyptian mythology. The snakes represent divine energy. The cables are lotus stems. It's all religious symbolism, but the details don't match lotus flowers. Lotus stems don't braid like electrical cables. Lotus flowers don't have the exact shape of incandescent bulbs, complete with what appears to be a filament snake inside. And why would priests need to operate symbolic flowers with technical precision? Here's what makes this truly strange. The Dendera temple carvings are inside a crypt, a sealed underground chamber with no windows, no natural light. Ancient Egyptians would have needed artificial light to carve these detailed images in complete darkness. Archaeologists say they used oil lamps or torches. But here's the problem. When you burn oil lamps or torches in enclosed spaces, they leave soot. Carbon deposits accumulate on walls and ceilings. Egyptian tombs that were definitely lit by torches have thick black soot covering everything. The Dendera crypt ceilings are clean, no soot, no carbon deposits. Whatever light source the Egyptians used to carve these detailed images in total darkness didn't produce smoke. In the 1990s, engineers built working replicas based on the Dendera carvings. They used materials available to ancient Egyptians: copper wiring, ceramic insulation, and a Baghdad Battery-style power source. The replica light bulbs worked. They produced light without flames, without smoke, without soot. The ancient Egyptians clearly knew about the Baghdad Battery design. They traded extensively with Mesopotamia. They had copper, they had the technical knowledge. Could they have created electric light 2,000 years before Thomas Edison? The counter-argument is compelling. If Egyptians had electric lights, why didn't they use them everywhere? Why only in this one temple? Why didn't the technology spread? Maybe it did spread, but we haven't found the evidence yet. Or maybe the technology was restricted to priests and temples, considered too sacred or dangerous for common use. Ancient Egypt was highly secretive about religious technologies. Many priestly techniques were never written down, passed only from master to apprentice. When the priesthood ended, the knowledge died with them. Or maybe it's all coincidence. Maybe these really are just lotus flowers, and it's our modern bias that makes us see light bulbs in ancient religious art. But the Dendera temple carvings remain one of the most controversial archaeological mysteries. They look like light bulbs. They're in a place that needed light but has no evidence of any other lighting method. The ancient Egyptians either had electric light or they carved religious symbols that coincidentally look exactly like electric light bulbs in a place that mysteriously has no evidence of any other lighting method. You decide which is more likely.
In Cusco, Peru, the ancient capital of the Inca Empire, there are stone walls that do something impossible. When you place certain metal objects near them, the metal is repelled. Not attracted like a normal magnet, repelled, pushed away. These aren't all Incan walls, just specific stones in specific locations, particularly in the fortress of Sacsayhuaman and in some walls of Cusco's old city center. The stones are massive, some weighing over 100 tons. They're cut with impossible precision, fitting together without mortar so tightly that you can't slip a knife blade between them. But it's not the cutting precision that's mysterious, it's the magnetic properties. In 2013, researchers from the University of Cusco conducted magnetic field tests on several ancient walls. They found anomalous magnetic readings in specific stones. Not all stones, just certain ones, seemingly placed deliberately within the wall structure. When metal objects, particularly iron or steel, are brought close to these stones, they're pushed away by a repulsive magnetic force. This is the opposite of what normal magnetism does. Normal magnets attract iron. These stones repel it. How is this possible? The stones are andesite and diorite, volcanic rocks common in Peru. These rocks shouldn't have magnetic properties at all. They're not naturally magnetic. Yet somehow, the Incas either found naturally magnetized stones, or, more disturbingly, figured out how to magnetize them. To create repulsive magnetism, you need to align the magnetic domains within a material in specific orientations. This requires either extreme heat, extreme pressure, or a strong external magnetic field. The Incas supposedly had none of these technologies, but there's more. Local legends recorded by Spanish conquistadors describe Incan priests using a liquid that softens stone like clay. Spanish chronicler Garcilaso de la Vega wrote that Incas possessed a plant extract that could dissolve rock, allowing them to shape massive stones by hand. Modern researchers have been unable to identify this plant or replicate the process, but if such a technology existed, it would explain both the precision cutting and the magnetic properties. If the Incas could alter stone at a molecular level, they could potentially align magnetic domains while the stone was in a softened state. Other theories suggest the Incas used intense acoustic vibrations or sonic frequencies to manipulate stone. Some researchers have found evidence of high-frequency vibration marks on Incan stonework. Could sound waves have been used not just to cut stone, but to magnetize it? Here's what we know for certain. The stones exist, they can be measured, they repel certain metals. The Incas placed them deliberately in their most important structures, and we have no idea how they did it with Bronze Age technology. Modern engineers can create repulsive magnetic fields, but it requires electromagnets, electrical power, and precise control systems. The Incas had none of these things, yet they built walls with magnetic properties 500 years ago that we still can't explain. Some researchers believe the magnetic stones served a practical purpose: earthquake resistance. Peru is one of the most seismically active regions on Earth. Incan structures have survived countless earthquakes that destroyed Spanish colonial buildings built right next to them. Could the magnetic stones act as dampeners, absorbing and dispersing seismic energy? Could the repulsive forces create a cushioning effect during tremors? It's speculation, but it's the only theory that explains why the Incas would go through the enormous effort of creating or finding magnetic stones and incorporating them into their most important buildings. The Spanish conquistadors destroyed most Incan records. Any written or oral tradition explaining the magnetic stones was lost when the empire fell. We're left with walls that repel metal, built by people who shouldn't have had magnetic technology, serving a purpose we can only guess at. The stones are still there in Cusco. You can visit them. You can test them with metal objects. They still work 500 years later. We just don't know how or why.
Mohenjo-Daro in modern-day Pakistan was one of the largest cities of the ancient Indus Valley civilization, built around 2500 BC. At its peak, it housed over 40,000 people with advanced urban planning, sophisticated drainage systems, and standardized brick construction. Then, around 1900 BC, the entire city was abandoned. When archaeologists excavated it in the 1920s, they found something disturbing. Thousands of bricks that had been exposed to temperatures exceeding 1400 degrees Celsius, hot enough to vitrify clay, turning it into glass. Vitrified bricks are fused together at a molecular level. The surface becomes glassy and smooth. This only happens at extreme temperatures, far beyond what normal fires produce. A typical house fire reaches 600 to 800 degrees Celsius. Even a major urban fire rarely exceeds 1000 degrees. The bricks at Mohenjo-Daro were exposed to 1400 plus degrees Celsius. That's hotter than volcanic lava. That's the temperature inside a blast furnace. But here's what makes this truly strange. The vitrification isn't uniform. It's not like the whole city burned. Specific areas, specific buildings, specific streets show vitrification, while areas right next to them are untouched. The pattern doesn't match a natural fire. It matches something else. British researcher David Davenport spent 12 years studying Mohenjo-Daro. In 1996, he published findings suggesting the city was destroyed by an aerial explosion. The vitrification pattern radiates from a central epicenter. Buildings at the center are completely destroyed, melted into glass. Buildings farther away show decreasing damage. The outermost structures are untouched. Davenport compared the damage pattern to Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The distribution of vitrified material, the blast radius, the epicenter, they all match a nuclear detonation. He found human skeletons scattered in the streets, frozen mid-stride, as if death came instantly. The skeletons show elevated radiation levels 50 times higher than normal background radiation. Some skeletons are still radioactive 4,500 years later. Ancient Sanskrit texts describe weapons called Brahmastra, divine weapons that could destroy entire cities with fire from the sky. The Mahabharata, an ancient Indian epic, describes battles where these weapons created a single projectile charged with all the power of the universe. An incandescent column of smoke and flame, as bright as 10,000 suns, rose with all its splendor. The text continues, corpses were so burned as to be unrecognizable. Hair and nails fell out. Pottery broke without apparent cause. Birds turned white. After a few hours, all foodstuffs were infected. These descriptions sound like nuclear weapons. Ancient Sanskrit texts are filled with similar descriptions of catastrophic weapons that match the effects of nuclear detonations. Blinding light, mushroom clouds, heat waves, radiation sickness. Mainstream archaeologists reject the ancient nuclear war theory. They argue the vitrification came from conventional fires or natural disasters. But conventional fires don't reach 1400 degrees Celsius. Conventional fires don't create blast patterns radiating from epicenters. Conventional fires don't leave radiation signatures in human remains 4,500 years later. The alternative explanation is that Mohenjo-Daro had advanced metallurgy and was smelting metals at industrial scale. Metal smelting can reach the required temperatures. But that doesn't explain the blast pattern. It doesn't explain the radiation. It doesn't explain why the vitrification is localized rather than spread across the entire industrial district. In 2008, researchers from Italy's National Research Council confirmed the vitrification and the unusual radiation levels. They couldn't explain the source. They noted the damage pattern is inconsistent with known natural or conventional artificial causes. The facts are, Mohenjo-Daro's bricks were exposed to extreme heat exceeding 1400 degrees Celsius. The damage pattern radiates from a central point. Human skeletons show elevated radiation levels. Ancient texts describe weapons with effects matching nuclear detonations. And we have no conventional explanation that accounts for all these factors. Did ancient civilizations have nuclear technology? That seems impossible. Nuclear physics requires understanding of quantum mechanics, particle physics, and advanced mathematics that supposedly didn't exist 4,500 years ago. But something happened at Mohenjo-Daro, something that created temperatures hotter than volcanic lava. Something that killed thousands of people instantly. Something that left radiation signatures that persist to this day. We don't know what it was, but we know it wasn't a normal fire.
In 1905, Nikola Tesla patented a system for wireless transmission of electrical energy. His design used a large tower to broadcast electricity through the Earth's atmosphere, allowing devices to receive power without wires. He built a prototype called Wardenclyffe Tower in New York. It never became operational due to funding issues. But Tesla claimed he didn't invent the concept. He said he rediscovered it, and he believed the ancient Egyptians had built the same system 4,500 years earlier. Tesla was obsessed with the Great Pyramid of Giza. He studied its dimensions, its internal structure, its geographic location. He became convinced it wasn't a tomb, it was a power plant. Here's his theory.
The Great Pyramid sits on top of underground aquifers, vast reserves of water flowing beneath the Giza Plateau. The internal chambers and shafts of the pyramid are precisely designed to channel electromagnetic energy generated by the interaction between the pyramid's structure and these underground water currents. Modern research has confirmed several of Tesla's observations. In 2018, physicists at ITMO University in Russia published a study showing that the Great Pyramid concentrates electromagnetic energy in its internal chambers and beneath its base. The pyramid acts as a resonant cavity for electromagnetic waves. The study used mathematical modeling and electromagnetic field analysis. The results showed that at certain radio wavelengths, the pyramid focuses electromagnetic energy into its underground chambers and the subterranean space beneath it. The researchers weren't looking to prove Tesla's theory. They were studying how ancient structures interact with electromagnetic radiation. But their findings align perfectly with what Tesla claimed in 1905. The Great Pyramid has other strange properties. Its base perimeter, 1,760 cubits, divided by twice its height, 280 cubits, equals 3.14 pi. This ratio appears to be intentional, encoding mathematical constants into the structure. The pyramid is aligned to true north with an accuracy of 1/15 of a degree. This level of precision is difficult to achieve even with modern surveying equipment. The internal chambers contain precisely cut granite blocks, some weighing 70 tons, fitted with tolerances measured in thousandths of an inch. The King's Chamber has unusual acoustic properties. Sounds resonate at specific frequencies that match the resonant frequency of the Earth itself. Tesla believed these weren't coincidences. He thought the pyramids were designed to tap into the Earth's natural electromagnetic field and amplify it, broadcasting power wirelessly across Egypt. The theory explains some mysteries. Ancient Egyptians clearly had advanced technology. They moved 2.3 million stone blocks, each weighing 2 to 70 tons. They cut and placed these blocks with impossible precision. They aligned the structure to celestial and terrestrial coordinates with accuracy that shouldn't have been possible. But there's no evidence of torches or lamps inside the pyramids. The interior chambers and passages are completely clean. No soot, no carbon deposits. How did workers see in complete darkness while building miles of internal passageways? If the pyramids generated electrical power, that would explain the lack of soot. Electric lights don't produce smoke. Egyptian hieroglyphics at Dendera show what look like light bulbs. Baghdad batteries show ancient cultures could generate electricity. What if the Egyptians combined these technologies? What if they built massive pyramidal structures to generate and broadcast wireless power, used Baghdad-style batteries as receivers, and powered Dendera-style light bulbs? The entire system would work. Every component has been verified separately. We just don't have direct evidence they were all used together. Critics point out that no ancient texts describe the pyramids as power plants, but ancient Egypt was obsessed with secrecy, especially regarding sacred temple knowledge. Most priestly knowledge was never written down. When the priesthood ended, the knowledge vanished. In 2020, researchers discovered that the Grand Gallery inside the Great Pyramid contains materials that could act as a chemical reaction chamber. The gallery has strange features: precisely spaced notches in the walls, a corbelled ceiling with exact geometric properties, and evidence of some kind of liquid having flown through it. One theory suggests the Grand Gallery was a hydrogen production facility. Hydrogen gas rising through the gallery would interact with the pyramid's electromagnetic field, amplifying the power generation. This is speculative, but it's based on chemical analysis of residues found in the gallery. Here's what we know. The Great Pyramid concentrates electromagnetic energy. Its structure encodes advanced mathematical constants. Its internal design serves no apparent practical purpose if it's just a tomb. Its construction required technology we don't understand. And Nikola Tesla, one of history's greatest electrical engineers, believed it was a power plant. We can't prove Tesla was right, but we can't prove he was wrong. The physics works, the engineering works, the materials work. The only thing missing is a schematic diagram explaining how the ancient Egyptians intended it to function. And that diagram, if it ever existed, is lost forever.
5 ancient energy technologies. 5 mysteries that challenge what we think we know about ancient capabilities. The Baghdad Battery generates electricity 2,000 years before modern batteries. The Dendera Temple shows what looks like light bulbs in places that have no evidence of torches. Incan walls repel metal with magnetic properties we can't explain. Mohenjo-Daro was destroyed by heat exceeding 1,400 degrees Celsius from an unknown source. And the Great Pyramid of Giza concentrates electromagnetic energy in ways that match Nikola Tesla's wireless power transmission theories. We can replicate some of these technologies. We understand the physics behind them. What we don't understand is how ancient civilizations discovered these principles without modern scientific knowledge. Did they have advanced technology that was lost when civilizations collapsed? Did they possess knowledge that wasn't written down, passed only through secretive priesthoods? Or are we misinterpreting artifacts, seeing modern technology in ancient objects that served completely different purposes? The evidence exists. You can visit these sites. You can test the Baghdad Battery. You can measure the magnetic stones in Cuzco. You can analyze the vitrified bricks of Mohenjo-Daro. You can study the electromagnetic properties of the Great Pyramid. These aren't myths. They're physical objects that exist today, and they're doing things that, according to our understanding of ancient technological capabilities, they shouldn't be able to do. Maybe ancient humans were smarter than we give them credit for. Maybe they understood natural phenomena through thousands of years of observation and experimentation that we've forgotten. Maybe knowledge doesn't always progress linearly forward. Maybe sometimes it's lost, and we have to rediscover what our ancestors already knew. The ancient world had energy technology. We just don't know how advanced it really was.